Detroit used to build cars that made your heart skip a beat, but today's lineup feels like ordering vanilla ice cream when you really wanted chocolate chip cookie dough. What happened to the cars that actually had personality? I'm about to show you 10 incredible American cars that vanished from our roads, and honestly, it's criminal that automakers abandoned these beauties. Each one of these cars solved problems we still have today, offered features that would blow your mind, and delivered experiences that modern cars just can't match. By the end of this video, you'll be wondering why Detroit isn't making cars like these anymore. Let's start with a car that was so far ahead of its time, it makes today's electric vehicles look basic. The 1996 to 1999 General Motors EV1 wasn't just an electric car, it was a glimpse into a future that GM decided to crush. Literally. This sleek, aerodynamic two-seater could travel up to 140 miles on a single charge using lead-acid batteries, and later models with nickel-metal hydride batteries pushed that to 160 miles. To put that in perspective, the first Tesla Roadster in 2008 only managed 244 miles, and that was nearly a decade later. The EV1 wasn't some science experiment either. It had a drag coefficient of just 0.19, making it more aerodynamic than most sports cars today. The car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 9 seconds, which might not sound impressive now, but remember, this was 1996. GM spent over $1 billion developing this car, and drivers absolutely loved it. But here's the kicker, GM never sold these cars. They only leased them, and when the leases ended, GM took every single EV1 back and destroyed them. Why would they kill their own revolutionary creation? Some say it was pressure from oil companies, others blame the cost. Either way, we lost a car that could have changed everything. Next up is the 1987 to 1991 Buick Reatta, a car so beautiful it belonged in an art museum. This was Buick's attempt to prove they could build something exciting, and boy, did they succeed. The Reatta was a hand-built, two-seat sports car that combined luxury with performance in a way that American cars rarely did. Only about 21,000 were ever made, which makes them incredibly rare today. What made the Reatta special wasn't just its looks, though those pop-up headlights and smooth curves were gorgeous. It was the attention to detail. Every Reatta was assembled by hand at the Reatta Craft Center in Lansing, Michigan. The interior featured real wood trim, leather seats, and a digital dashboard that looked like something from a spaceship. Under the hood, a 3.8-liter V6 engine provided smooth, reliable power. Sure, it wasn't a Corvette killer, but that wasn't the point. The Reatta was about enjoying the journey, not just getting there fast. The problem was timing. Buick launched the Reatta right when luxury sports cars were struggling, and the brand's image was more focused on comfortable cruisers for older buyers. But imagine if Buick had kept developing this concept. Today, when every luxury brand needs a halo car to show off their capabilities, a modern Reatta could be exactly what Buick needs to attract younger buyers. Let's talk about a truck that was so cool, it spawned an entire subculture. The 1991 to 1994 GMC Syclone and its sibling, the 1992 to 1993 Typhoon, were basically race cars disguised as practical vehicles. The Syclone was a compact pickup truck that could outrun a Ferrari Testarossa in a straight line. I'm not joking. Motor Trend tested a Syclone against a Ferrari 348 TS and a Chevrolet Corvette ZR1, and the little GMC truck beat them both to 60 miles per hour. How did GMC pull this off? They took their compact Sonoma pickup, threw out the regular engine, and stuffed in a turbocharged and intercooled 4.3-liter V6 that pumped out 280 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. All-wheel drive meant that power actually reached the ground, and the result was a truck that hit 60 miles per hour in 4.3 seconds. The Typhoon SUV version was almost as quick, reaching 60 in 5.3 seconds. These weren't just straight-line heroes either. The suspension was tuned for performance, the brakes were upgraded, and the styling was aggressive without being over the top. Only about 2,900 Cyclones and 4,700 Typhoons were built, making them incredibly sought after today. But here's what's crazy. GMC never really tried to recreate this magic. Today's performance truck market is huge, with the Ford F-150 Raptor and Ram TRX selling like crazy. A modern Syclone could easily compete in this space. Now, let's shift gears to a car that redefined what American luxury could be. The 1993 to 1998 Lincoln Mark VIII was Lincoln's answer to European luxury coupes, and it was spectacular. This wasn't just another big, soft American luxury car. The Mark VIII was sleek, sophisticated, and packed with technology that was years ahead of its time. The heart of the Mark VIII was Ford's 4.6-liter DOHC V8 engine, which produced 280 horsepower and gave the car genuine performance credentials. But the real innovation was in the details. The Mark VIII featured air suspension that could automatically adjust ride height for better aerodynamics at highway speeds. The headlights were high-intensity discharge units, the first production car to use HID lighting as standard equipment. The dashboard included a digital message center that could display everything from maintenance reminders to trip computer information. What really set the Mark VIII apart was its design. This car looked like it came from the future, with smooth, flowing lines and hidden details like flush door handles. The interior was equally impressive, with high-quality materials and a layout that actually made sense. Lincoln sold about 190,000 Mark VIIIs over 6 years, which sounds like a lot, but compared to the success of competitors like the Lexus SC, it should have done better. The problem was Lincoln's reputation. By the 1990s, most people saw Lincoln as a brand for retirees, not performance-minded luxury buyers. But the Mark VIII proved Lincoln could build world-class luxury cars when they tried. Today, when Lincoln is struggling to find its identity, a modern Mark VIII could be the statement car they need. Here's a car that was so practical it's almost boring, except it was actually brilliant. The 1984 to 1996 Jeep Cherokee XJ wasn't the first SUV, but it was the SUV that started the entire SUV revolution. Before the Cherokee, SUVs were basically trucks with roofs. They were crude, uncomfortable, and terrible on gas. The Cherokee changed all that. What made the Cherokee special was its unibody construction. Instead of building a separate frame and then mounting a body on top, Jeep integrated the frame and body into one structure. This made the Cherokee lighter, stronger, and more fuel-efficient than traditional SUVs, while still maintaining serious off-road capability. The result was a vehicle that could haul your family in comfort during the week and tackle mountain trails on the weekend. The Cherokee's inline-six engine was legendary for its reliability and power. The 4.0-liter straight-six produced 190 horsepower and would run forever with basic maintenance. Even today, you'll find Cherokee XJs with 300,000 miles still going strong. The four-wheel drive system was simple but effective, and the Cherokee's approach and departure angles meant it could handle obstacles that would stop much larger SUVs. But here's what's really impressive. The Cherokee XJ's basic design was so good that Jeep kept building it for 12 years with only minor changes. That's almost unheard of in the automotive world. When production finally ended in 2001, Jeep had sold over 2.8 million Cherokee XJs worldwide. Today's SUVs are bigger, more luxurious, and more fuel-efficient, but most of them can't touch the Cherokee's off-road capability or legendary reliability. Let's talk about a car that tried to bring European sophistication to American buyers but got lost in the shuffle. The 1985 to 1987 Merkur XR4Ti was Ford's attempt to import their successful European Ford Sierra to America, and on paper, it should have been a hit. This was a turbocharged, fuel-injected sports sedan that offered BMW-like performance at a fraction of the price. The XR4Ti's 2.3-liter turbocharged four-cylinder engine produced 175 horsepower, which was serious performance for the mid-1980s. The car featured independent rear suspension, four-wheel disc brakes, and European-tuned handling that was far superior to most American cars of the era. The distinctive styling, with its double rear spoiler and aerodynamic body, looked like nothing else on American roads. But the Merkur experiment failed for several reasons. First, Ford created an entirely separate dealer network for Merkur, which meant limited availability and poor service support. Second, The XR4Ti was expensive, about $16,000 in 1985, which was serious money back then. Third, American buyers just didn't understand what Merkur was supposed to be. Was it a Ford? Was it a European import? The confusion hurt sales. Only about 42,000 XR4Tis were sold over 3 years before Ford pulled the plug on the entire Merkur brand. But imagine if Ford had simply badged this car as a Ford and sold it through regular Ford dealers. With today's appreciation for turbocharged, European-style sports sedans, a modern XR4Ti could find a ready audience. Now here's a car that was almost too weird to succeed, but that's exactly why we need it back. The 1998 to 2002 Isuzu VehiCROSS was a compact SUV that looked like it drove straight out of a video game. With its aggressive, angular styling and bright yellow paint options, the VehiCROSS was impossible to ignore. But the VehiCROSS wasn't just about looks. This little SUV was a serious off-road machine. It featured Isuzu's sophisticated torque-on-demand all-wheel drive system, which could automatically transfer power between the front and rear wheels as needed. The suspension used a 4-wheel independent setup with long travel dampers, giving the VehiCROSS exceptional ground clearance and wheel articulation. In off-road tests, the VehiCROSS often outperformed much larger and more expensive SUVs. The interior was equally unique, with pod-like instrument clusters and controls that looked more like a spacecraft than a traditional SUV. Power came from a 3.5-liter V6 engine that produced 215 horsepower, giving the VehiCROSS decent on-road performance to match its off-road capabilities. Only about 5,900 VehiCROSS SES were sold in the United States over 4 years, making them extremely rare today. The problem was that the VehiCROSS was too radical for mainstream buyers and too expensive for enthusiasts. But in today's market, where buyers are craving unique, distinctive vehicles, a modern VehiCROSS could be exactly what the SUV market needs. Let's shift to a car that represented American luxury at its absolute peak. The 1976 to 1979 Cadillac Seville was Cadillac's response to the growing threat from European luxury cars like BMW and Mercedes-Benz. Instead of building a bigger, more extravagant Cadillac, they went the opposite direction and created a smaller, more refined luxury car that could compete with the best imports. The first-generation Seville was revolutionary for Cadillac. It was smaller than other Cadillacs but more expensive, proving that American buyers would pay premium prices for quality and sophistication, not just size. The Seville featured fuel injection, still rare in American cars, and a sophisticated suspension system that provided a smooth ride without the wallowing motion of traditional Cadillacs. What made the Seville special was its attention to detail. The interior featured hand-selected wood trim, premium leather, and controls that operated with precision. The exterior styling was clean and elegant, without the excessive chrome and ornamentation that characterized other American luxury cars of the era. The Seville looked expensive without being flashy. Cadillac sold about 170,000 first-generation Sevilles, which was considered a success for such an expensive car. But more importantly, the Seville proved that Cadillac could build world-class luxury cars when they focused on quality over quantity. Unfortunately, later Seville generations became increasingly bloated and lost the original's focused character. Here's a car that almost single-handedly created the muscle car market, then watched helplessly as everyone else got the credit. The 1962 to 1963 Dodge Dart 413 Max Wedge was the first factory-built drag racing car, and it was absolutely brutal. Dodge took their compact Dart, shoehorned in a massive 413 cubic inch V8 engine, and created a car that existed solely to go fast in a straight line. The Max Wedge engine was a work of art. With its cross-ram intake manifold and dual 4-barrel carburetors, it produced 420 horsepower in street trim and even more in race configuration. The Dart's lightweight body meant this power translated into devastating quarter-mile times. These cars were running high 11-second quarter miles right off the dealer lot, which was unheard of in 1962. But the Max Wedge Dart was more than just an engine swap. Dodge deleted unnecessary equipment like heaters and radios to save weight. The rear axle was strengthened to handle the power. Even the battery was moved to the trunk for better weight distribution. These weren't comfortable cruisers, they were purpose-built racing machines that happened to be street legal. Only about 300 Max Wedge darts were built over 2 years, making them incredibly rare today. But their influence was enormous. The success of the Max Wedge program convinced other manufacturers that there was a market for high-performance cars, leading directly to the muscle car era. Today, when factory performance cars are more popular than ever, a modern Max Wedge would fit right in. Finally, let's talk about a car that was so far ahead of its time, it's still futuristic today. The 1970 to 1973 AMC Gremlin was America's first subcompact car, and while it's often mocked for its unusual styling, it was actually a brilliant solution to changing market conditions. When gas prices started rising and import cars gained popularity, AMC responded with a small, efficient car that was still unmistakably American. The Gremlin's truncated rear end made it instantly recognizable, but that odd shape was functional. AMC created the Gremlin by shortening their Hornet compact car, which allowed them to develop a new model without the massive investment required for a completely new design. The result was a car that was 18 inches shorter than the Hornet, but shared most of its mechanical components. What made the Gremlin special was its personality. While other small cars of the era were bland and forgettable, the Gremlin had character. You could get a Gremlin with a powerful V8 engine, creating one of the first hot hatches. The interior was surprisingly spacious for such a small car, and AMC offered unique options like denim seat covers and bold exterior graphics. AMC sold over 670,000 Gremlins over 4 years, proving there was demand for distinctive small cars. But more importantly, the Gremlin showed that American companies could think outside the box when they had to. Today, when automakers are struggling to create electric and hybrid vehicles that people actually want, the Gremlin's spirit of creative problem-solving is exactly what we need. Each of these 10 cars represents something that's missing from today's automotive landscape. Whether it's the EV1's pioneering electric technology, the Reatta's handcrafted luxury, or the Syclone's crazy performance, these cars offered experiences that modern vehicles just can't match. They took risks, pushed boundaries, and gave buyers something truly special. The real tragedy is that most of these cars failed not because they were bad, but because they were too different, too early, or marketed to the wrong audience. In today's market, where buyers are craving uniqueness and automakers are desperate to stand out, cars like these would probably be huge successes. Imagine walking into a dealership today and finding a modern Reatta with electric power, a new Syclone that could embarrass supercars, or a VehiCROSS that looked like it came from Mars. These aren't just nostalgic fantasies, they're examples of the kind of bold, innovative thinking that made American cars legendary in the first place. The next video will show you the biggest automotive failures that actually became cult classics.